Hi, friends. Welcome back to Live at the Roxy. Today, a very, very special day on the show because coming over from AfterBuzz TV, he's an incredible host, writer, activist, and comedian. It's James Maple in the house. Wait,
Hello.
I love that you just did that. We talk on the show all the time about how when I introduce people, what they do. So you're a whoop whoop person.
Well, it's my Arsenio Hall days. Like,
Whoop whoop. I like that. And it's like some people do a little bit of a strange wave. This is like a little party for yourself.
I'm very obnoxious, so I'm all about like making noise and being seen. So
that is the least true thing I've ever heard about you. You are so not obnoxious. I am obnoxious. You are like cool, calm, collected, smooth.
Wait till you get to know me. You'll change your mind.
I think that you have a misunderstanding of yourself on that one. There's like, I've never heard you do. We have spent every day of the last, I don't know, several months talking to each other. Yeah. When have you ever done one obnoxious thing?
Okay, fine.
See, don't give yourself that adjective. That's reserved for the people who like really go above and beyond to be obnoxious. Extra. Exactly. Guys, for those of you who don't know James, you're in for a big treat today. As I told you on yesterday's show, James did 8 straight days of protesting like a frickin' boss, and has incredible stories, but also we know each other from AfterBuzz, so great stories from there. And I know that questions are already piling in from you guys in the chat and the super chat and the Streamlabs and all that stuff. So thank you for showing up today. But James, for the start of the show, I just kind of like to ask people, what's a day in the life for you right now? What is it looking like today in James Maple's life? What's going on?
Yeah. So, after my days of protesting, I feel like now we're in a place where the BLM movement is still going strong, but it's a bit more subtle now. So I'm having to kind of really hunt for those protests where they're not so overt. So, all my days are kind of spent, I do a lot of writing for AfterBuzz TV. So a lot of my time is spent doing that. I'm a big runner. So I like to run every single day.
Always have been?
Always. I use my running as like therapy to me. Like I know it's a very monotonous thing. So I'm always like, okay, let me think about what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say.
I don't understand when people say that. This is something my whole life I've never, because I wish I was a runner. It's so healthy. People say it's a great way to clear your mind. Obviously, it's incredible exercise. But anytime any of my friends were like, I really love running, I was like, are you lying to me?
It started off, I ran track for 12 years, I want to say. So it's always been in my like repertoire to go to run. I started when I was like in elementary school, and I went throughout college running track.
There was track at your elementary school?
Yeah. I'm from DC, so we have like very like hoity-toity private schools and things like that. So I was a sprinter. My biggest claim to fame, though, I will say this little known fact about your boy. I went to all states for pole vaulting. So I was a pole vaulter. That's the one with the stick and you jumping over the pole.
No, I know which one that is. I just never understood the science behind how that works, where people don't fall straight to the ground, because I cannot even get off the ground.
It takes a little bit of skill. The pole is pretty flexible, so it'll kind of snap you back over. So
what? Yeah. Things I didn't know about you. That's insane. We had track and field days in school, where you would try that, and then there was, what's it called? The thing that you throw? Javelin?
Discus?
The
javelin?
No, I don't know.
The long stick. The discus is the one you spin in a circle and then you throw it. And the shot put, that's when you hold, it's like a ball and you shoot up.
I think we'd have all of them on our track and field day or whatever. And it was part of gym class where you had to try all of the things. Yeah. And like, I couldn't do one. I mean, there was not one thing. So I can't even imagine. Are you very fast?
Yeah, I'm pretty fast. I ran the 4x1 and then the open one. Those are like the sprinter events for sure. So yeah, I mean, that was many moons ago. Don't let this youthful face fool you, because I'm not as young as I appear to be. So I'm not as fast as I was, but I can keep up with the kids these days, I think.
I don't know. It feels like every day a new record gets broken. Like, don't you feel like every day we hear about somebody being faster, and all of a sudden we're down to like, what is it, a under 4-minute mile or something? I'm like, how
insane. Like, even someone who's ran track as long as I have, like running a 4-minute mile is like, that's some next level stuff right there.
Did you ever think about doing a marathon?
You know, I've done a couple marathons in LA for like marathons for like breast cancer I did, and I think I did.
Wait, a full marathon?
Oh no, sorry, half marathon.
Half marathon. Well, that's still crazy.
It's a lot, but you know, like I said, I've been running for so long. It's just kind of something that just didn't have to train too hard for it. So.
Oh gosh, I'm so jealous. Do you ever wish? For me, I'm like get annoyed with my parents because I'm like, why didn't you make me do certain things as a kid? Like, I could have been an amazing guitar player at this point.
Yeah. I think I have to give my mom credit, because she definitely pushed me to do things I didn't want to do. Another thing that another little random factoid about me is I played the trombone for 7 years as well.
You still play?
No, I haven't played since I was in college.
But do you think you could if you wanted to?
Absolutely, yeah.
They say it's like riding a bike, right?
You never forget. I never forget those scales. Ever.
Fun thing about me, James, that you guys at home already know, I don't know how to ride a bike. So that expression has never worked for me. People are like, it's like riding a bike. I'm like, couldn't figure that one out. Nope, definitely couldn't. So thank you guys again for being here. I do want to start with some questions from James, because a lot of them are pouring in. So let me get to some of these that are coming in the Patreon. To start, from Glenn Caesar, who said, it's great to have you on live at the Roxy. James, thanks for joining Roxy and virtually hanging out with us today. Since you're an actor, writer, comedian, I'm wondering what other actors, writers, or comedians have been inspirations for you in your craft and career?
So when I moved, I'm from DC, like I mentioned before. So
born and raised
DC. So comedy has always been my thing. So a lot of my inspirations are all rooted in comedy. Specifically, I find that I like women comedians. In particular, one of my go-tos, hands down, is Maria Bamford. If you guys don't know who she is, I'm telling you, you're missing out. She has.
But why do you think that is? Why do you typically like female comedians?
I think it's because my parents divorced when I was a kid, so I was raised by my mom primarily. So I think that I just understand and click with women faster. So, and I also appreciate the subtleties of women comedians, especially like I feel like oftentimes women comedians are always having to discuss like topical things like, he doesn't like me, or like, basic things like that. When there are comedians who are like, I'm going to talk about like the real, I always have respect for comedians like that. And I think Maria Bamford is definitely one of those comedians who doesn't go inside like the typical mold of a female comedian. So I've always respected her work. Nick Swartzen, I know he's not a woman, of course, but he's a big fan of his as well. He acts like he plays one sometimes though. And then for acting, Zoe Saldana, I love her. I think she does excellent work. Denzel, you can't go wrong with him. Kerry Washington,
so good.
Yeah, those are those juggernauts. Those are the people that I really look up to.
What is the thing? Are you kind of like me in terms of so many different aspirations? You want to kind of do it all, or is there one main goal you're hoping to be? A stand-up, an actor, a host? One thing that you really drive to?
For me, hosting. When I moved out here from DC, I did comedy for many years. I had residency at the Comedy Store, at Laugh Factory, and I did the whole circuit. And I worked in restaurants for a long time as well. So it was almost like I'm combining those two worlds, and that became my TV hosting in a sense, because, working in a restaurant, you have to like talk to people and convince them of things and sell things to people. And being a comedian, you're on stage, you have to be lively and improv. So TV hosting to me was combining those two things. It was me being lively and interacting with people and selling something, be it a music video or an artist that I like. So TV hosting, I think, is definitely where I'd like to land.
It's a good thing you're pretty incredible at it. So it's not a bad place to land. Yes, absolutely. Okay, peek behind the curtain for a second. Glenn Caesar says, Roxy, can we get James to turn up his audio a bit? His volume is a little bit low. It sounds like he's a bit far. I don't hear that, but if you guys hear that, then maybe, but I hear him fine. But let me know if that's better. James, talk.
Cut it up a bit. But
There
you
we
know,
go.
I'll speak louder if I have to.
I feel like how could you not have lost your voice? I talk to you every day, and after protesting, you still had a voice every day.
Because you know, you get warmed up to it. You know, you do it every day. You know, there's a lot of
Is
yelling though.
is that true? Did you have no vocal? I protested for one day, James, and my voice was raw, like stripped gone.
You know, it got a little tough towards the second and third day, but you know, even I think that oftentimes people think the protesting is you screaming and shouting, but you can just, you know, literally you being there is the protest. You showing support is the protest. So you know, oftentimes I wasn't like screaming and shouting. And there are people who had like megaphones too, so you know, I couldn't compete with them.
Before we get to more of these questions, I do want to talk about your protesting because I am curious. Was this the first protest that you had ever gone to?
No, so I am many things. I'm also vegan. So I've gone to like vegan protests, but it's like a bunch of hippies standing on like Santa Monica with like signs, and it's like seven of us.
How
So I've
long have
done
you been a vegan for?
6 years.
And are you for the rest of your lifer?
You know, I don't know. The vegan community may get on me for this. I started in 2014, I want to say. And it kind of started as a just a dare to myself. I was like, let's just try this for 30 days, and 30 days turned into 60 to 90 to a year. Now 6 years. I've not been perfect, I will say. I had chicken when I was in Peru. Did not go over well. My stomach, my body rejected
How
it.
dare you?
And that was bad.
How?
But my thought process was like, homie, you're in Peru. You can get authentic Peruvian chicken. Let's get it. And I got
Yeah.
it.
Was it
And it was
amazing
good.
before it turned south for you?
Oh, it turns out very fast. I couldn't even,
Oh,
yeah, it was like I got it. And maybe 15 minutes later, I was running back to my hotel room. So,
damn.
yeah.
Yikes. I have not gone a single day without eating meat in, I'm going to say 20 years.
Really?
So, I think I have the opposite thing. If I try to put anything else in my body, it's like, no. Does that make you, are you a vegan who gets upset when you hear that?
No, so I hate those vegans. I call them preachy vegans. Like to me, your diet is like your political view or your sexuality. Ain't nobody's business, as Tabitha Brown says, that's your business. That's your
I
business.
love her
Ain't
so
nobody's
much.
business what you put inside your body but yours. So I hate those like preachy vegans who are like looking over people's plates, like, oh, you know, that's like back up, homie. Get off my vegetables. Chill,
Okay, but
chill.
what are you protesting for veganism? Who are
I'm
you
just supporting the
protesting?
lifestyle. I'm like, eat more vegetables. They aren't hurting anybody. We can do better. But I'm not over here like preaching. You know what I mean?
So you had been to a protest, but definitely not of this magnitude. I
Oh
don't know that
God, no.
anybody had been
No,
to a
no.
protest of this magnitude prior because there hasn't been protests of this magnitude for years and years. So what was your experience going to your very first one, which I actually don't even know which one that was.
It was the one on near and Pan Pacific Park in LA, near Beverly Boulevard.
Oh
So
yeah, I knew that.
that was the very first one. That was sponsored by shout out to Build Power and Kendrick Sampson. They were the ones who
You
were
mean my future husband?
yes, their future husband. She put claims on him, everybody, just so everyone's aware.
Oh, are you listening, Kendrick? Are you listening?
She wants you, boy. She wants you. But then the first one I went to, it started off pretty small, I will say. I remember us Kendrick speaking in the crowd around me was probably about 50 people. And as he was speaking, I was kind of facing him and not looking behind me. And I could hear more voices. And as I turned around, it ended up being 50, or was that when 30 or 40,000 people at that protest. I'd never seen a protest of that size, and it was enough to really bring you to tears. I mean, to see so much love and support from people who didn't look like me was truly amazing. And that was the protest. I'll never forget this protest. That was a protest that they set a car on fire on Fairfax and Melrose, I want to say it was. And it really, really was a shocking moment because you see things like that on television, but to see it happen in front of you was a whole different thing. And to see like the police drones literally above our head just by a couple feet, you know, it became a stark reality that, you know, we are living in a truly historic time of history right now.
One of the guests on this show, I don't know if you know him. He is an after buzzer, Tehran. Do you know
Yeah,
Tehran?
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
Tehran was on actually almost right after that protest. And he was talking about how when he saw the car get lit on fire, he saw it get lit on fire by these white protesters.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were black protesters standing in front of the car on fire, kind of taking a picture, because who doesn't want that photo op? Let's be real. And then there was a news crew that started filming right as the white protesters left after lighting on fire. The black protesters show up, and then that's when they started recording to try to show that that it was to try to like almost frame. I don't know a better word. The wrong people who didn't do it. Did you experience anything like that?
You know, it's funny you said that. I'm gonna be looking down. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I have that exact video. I was
no
one
way.
Of those people. I was one of those people that Tehran is talking about. Let me see if I can. Oh, found it. There we go. So,
how did you find that so quickly?
I have it. A good journalist is always ready. So that's the car in question, and I'll try to fast forward to the actual fire part. But it was majority white people who started it. Here's the kind of beginning of it.
Oh, so many people.
So it was a really intense. It was a really intense thing to see. I firmly believe, I don't know if you guys know this, but notice that car is like an old 1992 Cruiser. I don't want to put conspiracies out there, but I do find it a little interesting that the police put that car there.
So what do you? I'm not asking you to conspiracy, but what do you think? Honestly, what do you think that was about?
I think it was. I think it was there as like a sacrificial lamb. To be honest, the way that car was like put in an intersection, it wasn't even blocking traffic. I think it was something. It was a prop for people to like, let out some of their aggression. And they let it out and they destroyed that car. But as the car was burning and people were like destroying it with skateboards and what have you, I took note to like look at the officers in the surrounding area, and they were just kind of standing there with their arms crossed, just kind of not really doing anything. So that's what made me think that, like, why should you all be reacting?
But so do you think that they put it there to protect their actual cars or themselves and kind of have a focal point? Or do you think that they thought that was the right thing to do?
I think they put it there to distract, and then to also sensationalize the protest, because like, I don't want even this conversation to be taken over about like that car, because like that wasn't the focus of the protest.
Right.
And I think that was their angle. The angle was to portray our protest as this like violent, look at this car on fire. And I'd also like to point out that car was put there at that intersection in front of a gas station. I'm just saying. Because there are 4
I didn't even
points of
think
that
about
intersection
that.
that car could have gone, and they put it adjacent to a gas station. Again, it was not blocking any traffic.
Wow.
So I think that car was put there to sensationalize violence of the LA protest, because the good majority of that entire protest was all peaceful. And actually, when like the crowd started to get rowdy, it was just after Build Power and BLM and Kendrick were like, okay, guys, we're done. Like, thank you for marching. You guys can do whatever you want to do. And the crowd kept going up, and they did whatever they wanted to do, and they set that car on fire. So I definitely think it was there to sensationalize our protest and make it appear more violent than it actually was, because that in the full grand scheme of things, that was but 10% of that entire day that we protested.
When you speak about violence, James, what has been your experience in the protests with violence? Have you not seen much? Have you seen much?
Well, I have actually experienced it myself, and I'm just going to be very real. I have on gym shorts right now, but I'm going to show you guys something. I was shot in the leg with a rubber bullet from the LAPD. I do have shorts on, don't worry, but you can kind of see my scar right there.
Yeah. Wow. And that was a little bit ago now that you still have that.
2 or 3 weeks ago, I want to say. But overall, the violence that I have seen, at least in the protests here in LA, it's really been violence towards people who are trying to incite violence. For instance, we were at a protest, the one that Sanaa Moore, a fellow AfterBuzz TV host, and I went to together, and we were marching.
And love of my life.
Yeah, she's amazing. We saw people spray painting like Bank of America, and like BLM was like a white guy, and we were like stop! You're creating a narrative that they want. This is not the purpose of this. So some of the peaceful protesters like got him and pulled him away. So there was a little bit of violence there, but there were undercover police officers who were there to like arrest that man. But any of the violence that I've seen has not been it's not been within the protest itself. It's more to protect the protest. And you know, I posted a video, I think you commented on this, Roxy, where me giving daps to the National Guard. Like, that's the interactions that we had. Like, I don't want people to see us as marching in these streets, as burning down things and looting, because that's not our cause. It's not what we're here for. If anything, we're fighting against it if we do see it.
What day was it that you got shot with the rubber bullet? How many days into the protest?
That was the first day. So just after that car was caught on fire, the fire department came, and then as I was recording, they were having people back up, and people were moving forward, and they kind of just did like along the line, and I was hitting the ankle.
As somebody who's never been shot with a rubber bullet, what does that feel like, and what happens?
It basically is kind of like a glorified paintball. If you've ever experienced that, like a very, very hard rubber band is like pops you. It opened my skin a little bit. I mean, it's scarred, but you know, I'm going to wear this scar for the rest of my life as a badge of honor. Like, to know that I was there, I experienced this, and I did everything I could to fight for people who look like me. So I will be scarred for my life, and I will do nothing but honor this scar.
To those of you guys in here who are still struggling with your audio, I don't know, James, I wonder if, because they're hearing you, but just quiet, or me loud. So maybe I'll turn me down a little bit. Maybe we turn you up a little bit. It's a push and pull. I love these Zoom YouTube shows where all the curtains, they're opened up. Oh, we're moving to the pods. You know we're serious when we move to the pods. We can't hear you yet though, James. No, but I see the mouth moving. And while you do that, I'll take this from Lewis Cox, who says, I'm here to listen and learn. # Black Lives Matter. Appreciate that, Lewis. You keep showing up to listen and learn. And I think our amazing guests have done such a great job informing us on what's really going on. So thank you, Lewis, for being here. And thank you to all of you guys. And we will work on this audio thing, as I feel like I've got my ASMR voice on now, trying to match the quiet audio that's taking place. I do also want to, no, still can't hear you. Maybe they're dead. Now I can hear you. I heard that. Also to Katie Lee Robinson, who is our favorite Katie, obsessed with you, Katie. This is something that she wrote last night. She said, I appreciate you so much, friend. Thanks for showing up every day and providing community for us all, even when life is a shitstorm. My life is kind of a shitstorm too. I'm definitely not one of the 14%, but knowing we're in this together makes it fine. Appreciate that, Katie. I'm not one of the 14% either. James, where are we at? Oh, you can't hear me. All right. Well, I'll just keep talking to Katie, who's not caring because she's Katie. I heard that. Is what he said. Okay, continuing on with you guys. No ASMR, says Brandy. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I cannot help it. I love this comment from Jake. I want to read it again when James pops back on. But he says, James, wear that scar proudly for standing up for what's right. # Black Lives Matter. # Black Trans Lives Matter. Can you hear me? You can't hear me? What is happening? So weird, because I can hear it when it hits the thing. Oh, now we're hardwiring in, guys. We're doing what we can. We're doing what we can.
Okay.
Oh, we're with you.
Anything?
Yes. Yeah, you can't hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
I hear you perfectly. Oh my God, guys. Sign language and lip reading. It is. I don't know why. What happened?
Okay.
Who knows?
I can hear you.
You can hear me? You can hear me? We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but I'm echoing now. Like in your side, I can hear me playing back. Katie said, yay, good audio, but then it went away. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, but are you still quiet?
I'm going to be talking very loud then, because this needs to happen. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, we're doing it. I'll turn me down, guys, so you can turn the whole thing up. Jake Yakoveta said, James, wear that scar proudly for standing up for what's right. # Black Lives Matter. # Black Trans Lives Matter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Jake.
I appreciate you saying so, Jake. Also in here, some more stuff going on. Glenn Caesar wants to know. He says, hello, Roxy and James. Thanks for doing the show with us today. Looking forward to hearing the rest of the conversation and getting to know James more. James, what's your favorite album by your favorite artist? And do you have any artists and songs that really lift your spirits and make you zone out? A lot of the conversations recently on the show have been about how you can stay mentally healthy during this time. So music, a lot of the people have talked about, is something that they really is helping them. So Glenn wants to know about that for you.
Yeah. So Glenn, thank you for the question. I am a big music fan, so I got a lot of
they didn't even know that when they asked.
Yeah, I'm looking at my album collection right now, actually. So for me, Jamie Liddell, he's a UK based artist, but he's in the States now. I'm a big fan of his. He has an album called Building a Beginning. Highly recommend that.
I don't know who that is.
He's not many people do. I think he's such like an incredible artist. I feel like I'm getting some shine from these lights. If
like
not
a star.
Him, yeah, that's my right. If not him, I love old school R&B. So like Janet Jackson, Velvet Rope album, I think is great. Zone me out. A bit more in the 2000s. Christina Aguilera album Stripped, I think is dope and still goes hard to this day.
Amazing.
And then I'd say this is kind of strange and will age me a little bit. Do you all remember the Save the Last Dance soundtrack?
I remember the movie. I don't remember the soundtrack much.
The soundtrack is a banger. Highly recommend it. So I would definitely recommend that to you guys.
I know what I'm doing today. That is what I will be doing.
Save the Last Dance. It's a great film and even better soundtrack. So
I need that. Awesome. And Glenn, hopefully that helps. Chris Martinez in here said, hey, Roxy and James, hope you're having a great day. What are you doing in between protests to unwind and re-energize you for the next one?
That is an excellent question, and it's going to be rooted in a plug for myself as well. So
plug, do it. Yes, I love this.
So each day of the protest was very hard, and I had to work on like my mental health and find therapy to kind of progress to the next day. So I turned to writing. I started a series on my Instagram called I Love You, James. And I really talked about some of the personal things that's happened to me in my past, and I tried to relate it to a lesson of the day. One of the ones that caught the most attention was one I referenced back to a prom incident that happened to me as a kid. Roxy, you know the story. I'll tell you it very briefly, and I'll kind of explain, how it helped me in that day.
So the story makes me cry.
When I was, I'm going to say a word that I don't use often, but it needs to be said. So I hope I can say it. I don't use it. I don't think it should be used. But in this context, I think it's important to say the N word because it was said to me. And I want you all to understand the sting behind the story and how it still affects me to this day. So when I was about 16, I asked Jen W to the prom. She said yes. We picked colors and everything like that. The day of prom, I borrowed my mom's car, and I drove over to her parents' house, and I could feel there was like a weirdness in the air. And her family basically told me they were going to need to reconsider. And I was like, oh, okay. Mind you, I'm in a suit, ready to go to prom. And her grandmother says to me, I refuse to see my granddaughter go to the prom with a nigger. And I was distraught. I was heartbroken. I was dehumanized in every which way. And I told that story because I wanted people to understand that, for me, for instance, behind this like TV host smile, like there's hurt, there's pain. Black people as a people, while it's beautiful to be Black, like it can be very painful at times. And in this moment in time, a lot of those past traumas are kind of creeping back up, and it can be very easy to kind of slip down the rabbit hole and become really depressed. So I felt the best way for me to help myself and help others was to write. And I started that series, and every single day of the protest, I kind of told a personal story or some anecdote from my life or from someone close to me's life and try to teach a lesson. So definitely I turned to writing, and it's blossomed into something great. And I've been working a lot with Roxy personally and Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro to really advance my career. So if anything, when it comes to like things going on in your life, for me, it will be writing moving forward.
James, what happens after the grandma says that? What happens? Do
Um,
you respond?
it was a weird place. In my little write up, I spoke about how that was one of the first instances of, this may sound bizarre, but like that was one of the first instances of racism directly to me. I've been called the N-word many times before then, but that one in particular, there was no ambiguity in it. It was directed to me, and I was made to feel it genuinely, that I was worthless, that I wasn't good enough. And the upsetting part was, Jen didn't do anything, her family didn't do anything, and because they all agreed. And whenever we have instances like that happen, as a Black man in this world, you run. There are two paths you can go down, and I don't know oftentimes which one to take. You can react and get angry because what you do, what's happening to you, makes you angry. But then you run the risk of being yet another angry Black man, or you don't say anything, and you almost feel guilty and complicit in the racism. So it's a genuine crossroads of like, I may embarrass myself and feed into stereotypes by sticking up for my people and for myself, or I don't say anything and I'm denigrating my people, and I'm embarrassing myself because I didn't take this moment to stand up for people that look like me, and shoot this problem in the foot, because if I don't, it could happen to somebody else.
What have you found is the path that you choose most often when this has happened throughout your life?
In the past, I will admit, and I'm shameful to admit, I've kept my mouth shut a bit and just let little comments slide and let little things slide. But I would say, given our current climate of things, I have been far more vocal, and it's been great, because I think because of the movement that's happening now, people are receptive and they're listening and they're talking and they're engaging. So I found that if I'm ever met with any insensitivity, if I shoot it in the foot right away, people are okay. I didn't realize I said it that way, or I didn't realize that this happened. So, when I was younger, you let things slide, and you want to fly under the radar and not make a scene and not be perceived as like the angry Black guy all the time. But sometimes people make you angry.
What do you do? And because all of these things I would never know how to handle.
Yeah.
What do you do when you are angry and you know that that's a horrible stereotype and you don't want to feed into that? Do you have, like, a lot of our guests have talked about meditating, or I know that we talked about music. Like, what do you do to come back to center, or anything to feel okay?
That's where community comes in. That's where um, the good side of social media comes in. That's where having genuine friends and genuine allies comes in, where you can vent and talk to these people, and perhaps in some instances, maybe it was just my perception, and it wasn't the person's intention, because there's a separation of those two things. So I found that just talking to people, maybe not to that person in particular in that moment, but my friends and my family, and reading and trying to piece together some sanity of what's happened. So I definitely have turned to like my people, my community, people that look like me, people who don't look like me, especially now, to kind of bring myself back down.
When you talk about intention, James, how much do you care about that versus perception, or what is your reality?
That's a tough one, because I know oftentimes people don't necessarily mean the things that they say. It comes from a place of ignorance. They just may not know. But I can make it 24 hours in my adult life and not insult someone. I can go every single day and not make a woman feel less than. I can go every single minute and not, make someone feel displaced. If I'm capable of doing that, then you are as well. And I found that recently I've had to kind of explain. It's a double-edged sword. I have to explain my Blackness to people, and now I think is the time to do it. But in a sense, I'm always like, I don't need to explain myself to you. You know,
Right.
I, as a Black man, I found it's my job to understand how to circumnavigate people and really be as inclusive as possible, because I know what it feels like to be on the other side of that. So I say that to say it can be hard sometimes, because you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and you want to believe that everyone has the best intentions, and that's obviously not the case all the time. But it can be challenging, because you want to defend yourself, and you want to defend your people, and you want to believe that everyone has the best intentions, but that's not always the case. So it's a fine line.
I know what we hope happens from these protests and the movement, but what do you think, if James has crystal ball powers, what do you think is going to happen?
So I take a bit more of a pessimistic approach to this, and I may be alone in this opinion. I don't think this movement, while I'm fully behind it, I don't think it's going to have that uproot the system kind of end goal that I think that we all think it's going to have. I'd love it for that to happen, of course, for myself and for my people. But keep in mind, just in the late 80s, it became legal to have interracial marriage. Civil rights became a law in 1964. It was illegal up until a couple days ago I'm sorry, it was legal up until a couple days ago to fire a person based on their sexual identity or their sexual orientation. So while we are making these progressive steps, there's still, this country is founded and was rooted in racism. So I definitely think that the one positive thing that's come out of this movement is that I think they're listening. I really think that people are taking, while they may not have the power to uproot everything, the systemic racism that we face every day, I think people are becoming far more aware of their actions and their contributions to the world. And I would probably credit that to COVID-19. And I know it sounds weird me celebrating it, but us being at home and having to experience the Black experience through your camera phone every single day and see all of these things, I think it really has put people in a place where, whoa, let me take a step back from my reality, because there's something else going on, and it's been going on for centuries, that has flown over my head. And I want to believe that that's one of the most positive things that's come out of this, is that people have really analyzed what's important in their lives and analyzed the lessons they want to teach to their children, and analyze that they want to be on the right side of history. That may sound a bit selfish, but if that's what it takes for you to listen and learn and engage and teach and call out other people when you see things, then I think this movement was a success, because that's happening.
This is kind of a strange follow-up, but because of what you just illustrated, is part of you grateful for COVID?
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in any way?
I don't want anyone to misconstrue the question or the answer.
Like, grateful for quarantine, at least.
Yeah,
like, wish it wasn't caused by COVID, but
right.
Grateful for the opportunity for people to be home.
Right. I would say so, because those 2 p.m. protests wouldn't be reaching 50,000 people if everyone had a job at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But yeah, I definitely would. I would say that's one of the more positive things that's come out of our quarantine, is we've all had it's really made us think about what's important in life. And in this instance, be it COVID or Black Lives Matter, life itself is in debate. It's not even about what's important in your life. We've had to face death with the 110,000 Americans that have died because of COVID-19, and the countless Black lives that have been lost. Our relationship to death has changed drastically over the past few months, the abundance of death. And I think that us being home and having to mourn our loved ones, and I have a friend that passed away a couple weeks ago, and we had to attend his funeral via Zoom. It's things like that are happening. I think, again, people are really analyzing what's important in their life, and really understanding that life itself should be cherished. And through whatever powers that be, it's not cherished in many ways. And I think that we're really thinking about that now.
Going back to the questions from you guys, this one came in from Patreon. Weston Ira. Okay, stick with Weston. He has a funny way of phrasing questions sometimes.
Okay.
He starts with, maybe if we say hashtag Jamoxy 3 times. So he always tries to give ship names. So I'm Roxy, you're James. So I guess we're Jamoxy. 3 times. We'll get an overtime edition so that I can keep watching live. With cops canceled unfairly, in my opinion, and now Danny Masterson potentially causing the figurative cancellation of that 70s show by being one of the scum of the earth. Do you two believe that we'll get less shows due to more time being spent vetting subject matters and staff members? So there's a lot of stuff going on here. The first part with cops being canceled. So there are a lot of police officer themed shows that are getting canceled right now. I think mostly because they probably aren't going to get viewership because nobody really wants to watch that right now. Or maybe people do. I don't want to speak for everybody. And then the Danny Masterson thing we haven't spoken about on the show yet. Yesterday we were talking about Crystalia. Danny Masterson was accused of 3 counts of raping different women and arrested for that yesterday. So that 70 show isn't on now, but I guess maybe syndication canceled might be what Weston is referring to. But again, the actual question being, with more sensitive subjects coming out, do you think that we're going to see things get canceled more? So James, deciphering all of that, what do you think?
You know, I'm kind of torn on that. Well, not really. I think that I think no, because I think that, like, as these things come to light about people's transgressions, they should, and these people should not be celebrated. So there are so many talented people out there who live a good life and do good work and treat people right, and they go underrepresented. So if that's the price you have to pay, then so be it. Like, I can't as a black man, honestly, I can't as a black man feel bad for a white man who raped somebody who went to jail and his show got canceled. Like,
right.
Black people are dying for sleeping in their cars, or there's
and how about in their beds?
Yeah,
Brianna.
like I can't. So I hate to like keep equating everything back to being black, because that's not necessarily the premise. But I can't feel bad for Matt Lauer or any of these disgusting individuals losing their careers because of the things that they've done. So if that's what it takes, there are tons of other people who are talented on this planet who can make you laugh just as much and deserve a shot and live good lives. And I think that they can replace them. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. What do you think about the shows with themes of cops being canceled?
You know, I'm okay with that. I do the after show for Reno 911 for AfterBuzz TV. So I'm a bit torn because I'm a massive Reno 911 fan, and that is a comedic cop-based show. And throughout this whole thing, Reno 911 has actually been investing quite a bit of money into the community because they know that their show is based on the satire of a cop-criminal relationship. When it comes to like the shows like Cops, you know, it's been on the air for like 20 years. Like, people really are we upset about Cops being canceled itself, or the idea of Cops being canceled? Because I feel like it's more the idea of it.
I feel like I haven't watched that show in so many. I mean, it was on the background when, like, you remember growing up we had a TV in my kitchen. That was where the TV was. It was maybe this big, like literally the size of my face, and this thick, like thicker than it was big. And I remember it was on that, like, that's the last time I can remember seeing this. Yeah. So definitely I'm not upset about either. I'm not upset about the idea, and I'm not upset about it actually being canceled.
And Cops itself is like a fake show. Like, I mean, it's a television show. Like, you guys know they'll reshoot stuff. Like, it's not real. They don't know what happened. So, like, to me, it's like it's like a reality show that got canceled. There'll be more. But
I do feel bad for the people who didn't do anything and their show gets canceled because some dickhead did do something.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of this, of course, are accusations and alleged right now. But if the Danny Masterson stuff is true, which in my personal opinion, it seems to be incredibly true.
Right.
I feel bad for anybody associated with him because then their careers are hit for something that they did not do. And that fucking sucks. But it's what has to happen because I mean, it's atrocious. It's atrocious what people are. Did you see Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich? Have you watched that on Netflix yet?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
I know.
I've heard excerpts from it though, and I've heard it's been crazy.
I'm on the 4th episode, which is the final episode right now. I talk about anybody who doesn't understand what white privilege is, that show has to be watched because there is only one scenario in which he gets away with what he does, and that's by being a rich white man. Like there's no other situation in which you get away with what you got away with for as many years as you did. And it's so fucking atrocious. But yeah, just that it was a little bit of a tangent, but just saying like those people, I'm with you in terms of how the fuck am I supposed to have any sympathy or empathy for you?
Yeah, I just don't.
Because I don't. So Jake Yacovetta in here said, all the love to James for being strong and not letting all the bullshit break him. I salute my dude. My question to you, James, based on that is, has there been a moment that you have felt like you were broken through this? Was there anything that took place where any of the bullshit did actually break you? Obviously not permanently because you're back and better than ever, but.
I'd say that the 4th day. I'd say the 4th day. I'm struggling to say this as I'm like getting emotional just thinking about it. But I march. People oftentimes ask me like, what's your motivation for like march? I think it's such a stereotypical like Los Angeles question, like what's your motivation? But what's your motivation in marching? I march for people that look like me. I have 2 nephews. I march for my grandfather who passed away. You know, I think of one day where my nephews will be in college and they'll pull up my AfterBuzz TV article series and say, my uncle was there and he has firsthand facts and things like that. So to bring this back to your question, that the 4th day I was protesting on Hollywood and Vine and somebody rode by and they're like, you're a fucking terrorist. Like you hate our country. And they were on their bikes. So, you know, they felt they were just driving by so they could, you know, shout obscenities and wouldn't be harmed. But that's the one that almost brought me to tears because it could not be further from the truth of why I'm standing out there. You know, I'm standing out there for representation, for people that look like me, for my grandfather and my nephews, and to be called a terrorist and I hate this country because I'm fighting for the right for me to be alive, you know, just to live simply. And I'm called a terrorist for it. So that was a moment to me that really broke me because it was riding a wave of such like love and such camaraderie among all of the people. And it's unfortunate, you know, it's kind of like a Yelp review. You read a bunch of Yelp reviews, but you only remember the one bad one. Like I almost forgot about the amazing day that we had because that one idiot on a bike called me a terrorist because I was defending, you know, people that looked like me. So that was a really heartbreaking moment. It didn't last long, but it just let me know that like not everyone out there sees it for me, and not everyone out there sees the BLM movement the way that I see it and the way that I hope that you all see it as well.
So that person was a stranger, but one of the common themes on this thread for a lot of my guests seems to be the fact that they are disappointed in a lot of their friends, in what some of their friends have done or said during this time, and actually losing friends during this time. Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I call that the purge.
Oh, I like that. Can I borrow that?
Absolutely. Everyone can borrow it. I call it the purge. We notice these things, you know, we notice these things. I notice the friends who are silent. I notice the friends who don't like, I know this is so superficial, who don't like my things on Instagram or Facebook when they come to BLM. And it's really disheartening. And I frankly, I'm going to be frank. I don't give a fuck. Like I will always be a Black man. I will always fight for Black rights. I will always do that. If you can't accept that as part of who I am, then you can't accept who I am, because that will always be on the forefront. It will always be. So for those friends that, you know, I've had friends reach out like, why do you, you know, if you have to question my advocacy, then I need to question your friendship.
What is your policy when it comes to having conversations right now? Like, if you get a hint of somebody doesn't understand or they have ignorance or especially if there's like any kind of hatred in their heart, are you talking to people about that? Or right now, are you just like, I'm exhausted. I'm putting all my energy in this other place and I can't even have those conversations right now?
I think it's more the latter. I'm kind of like compartmentalizing things a lot. And like I said, I'm observing people a lot. If I care about the person and I know their heart and it was just a mistake, I'll reach out. But like I said earlier, it's not my job to explain my blackness to anyone. Like if you don't understand that saying all lives matter is offensive, then we don't need to be friends. And that I say that as an example because it happened with someone who I considered a friend, and I was like, oh, you have those feelings.
What, they posted it on social or
An all
something?
lives matter kind of thing. And I know it's like it's such a superficial thing because I hate to like draw these mass conclusions about people's heart based on Instagram.
I don't think that's
fair.
superficial at all.
No,
I think, are you kidding? If somebody
Well-
posts that, how is that superficial? That is them publicly stating
yeah,
that they are not with the movement.
yeah.
And
I want-
if it was the first time, if they had no idea and they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that that's what this meant. I thought that, that's one thing, but
Well, in this instance, that person, that was that one thing. They just didn't understand. So I'm happy because I knew this person's heart, and I just think that they were just confused. And I think I remember messaging them, and I was like, do you know how offensive this is? And they changed it immediately before even me explaining what it was. So I think that a lot of times, like I'll try my best to like think to myself, is this person doing it from a malicious intent? That I think, and if they are, I'll try to address it if I think that salvaging the friendship is worth it.
in the chat right now, I see Haley Matthews, who was an AfterBuzz intern and then host, who says, "Oh, I've lost so many friends." First of all, Haley, adore you. Thank you for being in here right now. But that fucking sucks. That fucking sucks. And I don't know that. I think that yes, it fucking sucks, but and with a major asterisk here, but good.
Yeah.
Good that we know where people stand.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things that's come out of this is that I know, for people who I thought I knew their heart, I definitely know it now, and even people who don't overtly say anything, the people that stay silent are the ones that I'm really like, oh, you don't give a fuck, like you've chosen to be, like, at least pick a side, like I know where you stand. You not saying anything at all is the worst thing to me.
Yeah. So you think that staying silent is even worse? Do you think that staying silent is worse than saying something like all lives matter because now you're just not saying anything?
Yeah, it's a hard. I don't want to go that far and say that I completely agree with it, but yeah, in a sense, yeah, I think there's silence and complicity. I feel like if you don't say anything, you're making the problem worse. I mean, of course, saying something on the opposite side of the fence, of course, makes it worse as well. But I don't know. At least I know where you stand.
Yeah.
At least I know.
Yeah, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, I know if you post an all lives matter or any BS like that, I know what side you're on, and I know that we can't be friends. But it's those people that who have remained silent, and I think that I may be able to go to you with an issue that I have, or hey, I'm feeling this kind of way. And to be met with a potential like shock of like, oh, you don't give a fuck. I think that set of people are a bit worse because you have the option to say something and you've chosen to remain silent. And I think that attributes to the problem.
Also, shout out to James Lott Jr., JLJ Media. James is so great. So proud of him and what he's doing. James Lott, we love you here on the show
James.
as well. James was a previous guest of the show. He says, hello, everyone. So happy to have you back in here right now. Wow, I have a lot of love for my Jameses.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love for my Jameses and everything that you're doing. And I know that we have, with James Lott, we kind of talked about some other ways to be active during this time because James Lott is unable to protest due to his own health conditions and what's going on with him. But for you, James, I know you have been actively on the ground, but any other things that you feel like you've been doing that you think you could advise anybody else to do, or you think are good ways to show support and activism?
Yeah. I'm a bit more extreme than most when it comes to my protesting.
I love that about you.
Yeah, I'm a bit more active. Given COVID-19, I understand it's a complete risk to go around, 50,000 people. Like, I get it. And I'm willing to take that risk for myself, for my people. But just, guys, know that my way is not the only way. Like, for instance, this doesn't get much media coverage, and I think it's important to know. I go to these protests hungry and thirsty as fuck. When I leave, I'm full and hydrated because there is nothing but people on the flanks handing out water, handing out masks, handing out hand sanitizers, handing out granola bars. You could eat. There are people who, if you don't want to be exposed to people, I know people who just dropped off cases of water en route of the protest and just drove away. That can be kind of risky because then people could tamper with it. But there are ways you can protest. Donate. You can write letters. You can start petitions. I know those are very topical ways to protest, but you can definitely make your voice heard. Starting a Facebook group, anything, just speaking, talking to your family, talking to your friends about my experience. Those are all forms of protest because it will enlighten people about other experiences, and it may click a switch for people to start thinking about the things that they've done.
I saw today, oh crap, I really don't want to get this wrong and bash a company that doesn't deserve. Did you see the company today that made the guy that fired somebody for wearing his BLM mask? It's a big company. Shoot, I don't want to, you guys will tell me. I feel like it might, I don't even want to say the company I thought it was in case it's not, but you guys know what I'm talking about. There was an entire video, and he's in his car wearing his BLM mask, and you can't see his boss, but his boss, you can hear her, and she's like, you need to take the mask off, or Taco Bell. That's what I thought it was. Thank you, Spencer. And she's saying it's against the rules. And he's saying it's not. We were told we were allowed to wear any mask we want. We just have to wear it over our nose as well. And he loses his job over it. And it was like this insane video that was this morning. And I feel like at this point, it keeps being like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah. But Rox, we can't. I know that those examples are getting in the news and becoming sensationalized, but I'm telling y'all, on the front line, that person, that ignorant manager, is a piece of shit, and they are small in numbers. I'm telling you.
Right.
I've been out there, 50,000 strong. That is one person. There are and this sounds very combative. There are so many more of us than there are of them. So I want to go back to my Yelp example. I don't want us to focus on these small embers of ignorance, because I'm telling y'all, there's so much love for all of us out there. Though that's unfair.
But let me ask you this, James.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because I feel like, and I could be wrong here, that it's important to focus on these to show that for the people out there who say things like, this is not a problem anymore. What more do you guys want? This is not an issue. Well, it's still a massive effing problem every effing day. So I do try to highlight those things to show, for anybody who thinks that this isn't okay, we solved it. It is so far from solved. But I hear what you're saying. That's not the only thing to highlight. But I feel like it's worth talking about because
you're right. I think I do take that back a bit, because I think you explained it well. It can be important to talk about these things, because I think that I may have a biased opinion about it as a Black man, because I know that these things happen and I've seen them happen, or they've happened to me.
Yeah, so you don't need to be reminded. You're like, I know.
Yeah. I can concede to that point, because it can be important. I just don't want. I think my point was, I don't want people to get lost in the negativity and to think that that's all that's existing out there. These things are happening. Duh. Of course, we all see them. And to those naysayers, it's just another example of how we can show you that these things are happening. Right. But there is a lot of love out there. There's a lot of light, and I want that to be highlighted as well.
That makes a ton of sense because I know that from a lot of my LGBTQ plus community members that I'm friends with, they've talked about for years how they're sick of every media movie, TV show, scripted thing that they're being represented in shows that when you come out to your parents that they disown you and hate you, and that's just the way it is. And they feel like that actually doesn't teach parents what it looks like to have your kid come out to you and just be like, great, love you anyway.
Right.
And so I hear you completely, because if all we see in the media is these negative reactions, we're not actually showing people what the right thing is to do, or what love looks like, or what compassion looks like. So I completely hear you, James, on that. I think that, wow, what an interesting balance that we kind of have to find, making sure, but always lead with love. And I feel that. And I see more comments in here. Sorry, guys. Let me get to a couple of you guys. Jake says, I had a lot of coworkers reach out with issues with me posting about Black Lives Matter on social media. I never said anything political, just that all people needed to be treated equally. When I go back to the office, I will say that shit just as loud.
You should, man. Thank you.
Look at you,
Thank
Jake.
You.
I love that, Jake. And Jake is one of my favorite humans, and I know he will shout it from the rooftop. So you do you, Jake. Also, back in here, Mr. Caesar says, Roxy and James, much love to you both. Thanks for sharing such a heartfelt and deeply personal conversation with us all. This was another great show. Roxy, please add James to the list of guests that you should have back on whenever he can join you. He's a rock star for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for making him feel so welcome. And I know that they want James Law Jr. back on too. So, we've got the Jameses are always welcome here. I feel like you guys need to start a band together.
The Jameses, I'm with it.
You love music. He loves music.
Oh, yeah.
The Jameses, that's where it's at.
Let's do it.
Shout out to Gregory Castillo for your support. I appreciate it. I do want to say, by the way, guys, because I haven't mentioned this yet today, speaking of support, tonight on this channel at 6 p.m., I know I told you guys it was 7 p.m., but that's because I was wrong. Because sometimes in life we are at 6 p.m. on this channel. The World Girls are getting together. That's me, Dorina, and Steph Sabra. And we are doing a fundraiser tonight for Know Your Rights Camp. So please come through. Show as much support as you can. Last fundraiser I did on this channel got over $2,000. So that was freaking amazing. You guys are awesome. And we definitely want to show support tonight to make it a little more enticing. We are playing Truth or Dare. So your funds can go to asking us some of our whatever questions you have, or making us take a shot, or whatever it is. So
y'all be taking dares from the chat, right?
We will be taking dares, truths and dares from the chat. And all of the proceeds will be going to Know Your Rights Camp. So it will be an interesting one. That's at 6 p.m.
In the chat typing dares.
Oh man. Okay, we'll see. Katie Robinson says, remember to leave a comment for the algorithm. Love you, Katie. Appreciate that. We love those algorithm comments. It really does help. Let me know how much you love James Maple. Tell him that he's the frickin' best, because he absolutely is. The Prince That Wasn't Promised says, I don't understand how anyone has so much hate in their heart that they will protest against someone else not wanting to die. Straight up Sith-ish. Yeah, it is Sith-ish. The if we're talking Star Wars, they're the bad guys for sure. I don't understand that either, so I can't pretend to.
I just that was just one that just didn't sit right with me, because it could not be further from the truth of the reason why I was standing there.
Also, the person doing that is such a coward, because walk along your side then and come up to you and say that when you're not on a bike.
Of course. It's like the keyboard warriors. They got all this mouth behind that keyboard. That mouth behind those pedals in that bike. But like I said, I'm very fast. I could have chased his ass and got him, but I'm gonna be good today.
Oh, I am not a fan of these keyboard warriors, but I do in some ways feel like I've become one of them because I'll be going after people that I have never seen on like random YouTube videos right now that are commenting things. Like I'm like, did you see what Seth Rogen was doing to anybody who was commenting?
A couple days ago. Yeah.
That's like me right now. And so I'm like a little keyboard warrior, but at least actually right now my icon isn't my face. It's just so they don't even know.
There you go. That's the best way.
But I'm getting out my aggression on all the assholes online. So, all right, not all keyboard warriors are bad. Guys, please, round of applause at home for James Maple. You are incredible, James. I know that the people are going to want to support you and show up for you. So where can they find you in all the places that you are?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Terrell James Maple. I think it's right there.
Yeah, damn right it is.
And then you can find me on Twitter right there at James Maple Actor. And I'm a pretty big on Instagram. I do a lot of my stories and post them there. So definitely check it out if you want to see it with my writing. I'm a TV host, and a lot of my stuff is on there as well. So definitely reach out. I try my absolute best. I know people say this, but I really do try to respond back to everyone, especially given the new platform I've been on with Maria Menounos and Roxy. It's gotten me a lot of exposure, and a lot of people have reached out. So I'm doing my best to reach out back to you. I appreciate all the love I've gotten thus far.
Absolutely, guys. Check out his Instagram series, I Love You, James. Read his incredible articles on AfterBuzz TV talking about everything from activism to music, and watch his show, Black Twitter. I'm telling you guys, James Maple is an absolute star, and I cannot wait for every person on this planet to know his name, because they will for sure. James Maple, everybody. So lucky to have you here on the show today, James. All the love in the world to you. As we get out of here, I see Glenn had one more on the idea of the James Band, to quote Drew McQueenie, gift from the MTS, make it happen. That is yes, so sir. True. Make it happen. Yes, James is in here right now, so you guys can text offline about it. And everybody else, don't forget, back here 6 p.m. tonight. Again, that is not 7 p.m. because that 7 p.m. was a lie from lack of sleep that I made up. It is 6 p.m. here tonight. And if you want to make us do some weird shit or answer some strange questions, then you're doing it for a good cause. Are you going to be a keyboard warrior tonight?
Tonight? Hell yeah, I'm going to be in there. Hell yeah.
James, you're incredible. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys later tonight.